Then just before I go, I mean,
I
there's the
go
really
ahead.
a burning question that how do you really position yourself when you're not feeling well as a coach, and how do you really be present? I mean, I know it's a whole question, but yeah, but it's still something that I think is something really appreciating.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, once you're physically down, you need to recognize that you are already down. Like right now, it's still running temperature. My face is I still. Uh, what I can encourage you is, when you have to trust your training. Of course, when you're full in a full health, it's much easier for you to access to your inner capacity. But when you are down, you have to trust the training that you have learned, and trust the process, and I guess that is what I do at this moment. I wish I could have done a little bit more, but apparently this is my maximum capacity at this point of time. So I guess the training does, the way you train yourself, the way you prepare yourself, will eventually show up, especially when you're down physically, and whatever they are demonstrating are basically the results of all the hard work of training. So there's a Chinese saying, it goes something like the reason why we trained our soldiers is to prepare them for that one battle. Right. So like, not every country, you know, had to fight a war every now and then. But yet they never stop training the soldiers, and the reason for that is to get them ready for the time when they had to fight. So I guess it speaks a lot for us as professional coach to do more than just attending classes. There's so many dimensions about being a professional coach, like your way of being, cultivating your own inner capacity, your presence, interacting with other coaches, talk about the coaching process, to deepen your appreciation. So there's a whole lot of stuff, awaiting for us to nurture. So I guess this is my encouragement to all of you who aspire to be a professional coach, that this is a very noble vocation where you get to work with another human being, listening to their stories. It's not a thing that we fix, but a thing that we appreciate, things that we need to handle with tender, loving kindness. That gentleness, but yet at the same time, strong and firm, so it requires a lot of cultivations. So my encouragement to all of you, yes, okay, you have completed your training, that is great, but that's not the end of the journey. There's lots more to develop. Good, thank you. Thank you, Joyce, for putting that in. I have David. David, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Sorry, I came in late because for some reason my registration got a glitch. But my question was, I noticed a lot of long pauses during your conversation, and they were very calm, reflective moments. But my question is, or maybe a comment, how do you stay focused? Do you have another conversation going on in your head while you're waiting for the client to collect their thoughts, or are you completely engaged with being in the moment with the client?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that question. So as I reflected back, or no, as I right now try to remember what's based on your questions, what am I thinking about when there was a long pause? I think as I look back at it, my mind was not really thinking about the next question at that moment. I think I was just waiting for the response. I think the questions was pretty much loaded for the client, and I was more or less waiting for the response of the clients and then to consider how to take that forward from there.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt you were completely there,
Yeah.
waiting
Yeah.
in
Yes. Yes.
in the presence of the clients.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. As I recall back, I was really waiting, and I was in I was waiting, I was waiting together with the client, like waiting to see what's going to come out and be surprised by whatever that is coming out. So I think that's more like it than me being able to think about, okay, where to take the conversation next.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
presence, I think that meant the client was in control.
Yeah, true.
At their thinking, at their pace, you were just waiting to go with that. I think
Yeah, yes,
that was powerful.
yeah. I think that's most likely the case for today coaching conversation. I think partly because the clients has a lot to offer already in her mind, and it's more for allowing that to settle down and see how it lands and how it makes sense for me as I'm hearing the response. Then from there, decide what else is my intuition telling me about what should be like, what should where we can take the conversation forward from there onwards. So a lot of those questions are mostly very spontaneous, as in, or maybe I'm running a fever, that's why I can't think too much. So I can only wait for what's land and decide what to do with that. So I think most of it are basically waiting and then seeing and then just take it from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Wow, that's great. That is one good interview. And how about other people? Do you have any other interesting questions that you'd like me to respond? Oh, today is quite a quiet crowd. Anything particular that caught your attention that you would like me to elaborate a little bit more? Okay, we have Mark. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, hi Ben. Yeah, so one thing you picked up on that I'd love to hear a little bit more about why you chose that was the difference between the need to have courage or to have courage versus to be courageous. So
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit more of
Yeah.
your thoughts around that.
Good, good. Well, the clients were speaking about that. That was something that caught I was a little bit suspicious around it too. What I'm suspicious about is when I hear the word "I need courage," it sounds to me that this is something that the clients don't have and need to produce, right? But it doesn't seem to match the storyline when the client was alluding to the fact that she's courage, she wants to be courageous, right? So when I hear the word "I want to be courageous," it suggests to me that I already have courage and I'm acting upon that. But then when the story turns to "I need courage," it shows that I don't have courage, right? So that was where I was a little bit suspicious around, okay, is that not just suspicious, but it's just that I want to confirm with the client, what's the matter of the fact here? Is it about you being, or is it about you doing something? So that's where I want to check in mostly. And I think I have no idea where it would be, but so that's why I would just say, I would like to check in is which one are you referring to, so that I can be more clear whether is this going to be a being or a act of doing something. But then eventually the clients actually take both ends in and say, yes, I'm courageous, and yet at the same time, I need to do the work of being courageous. I said, okay, that's fine. That's also work for me. So that's where my chain of thought is. Is that helpful for you, Mark?
Yeah, very, very helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good to hear things, to be able to train your ears, to be able to differentiate between adjectives versus a noun versus a verb, because that speaks a lot in terms of, like I say, in our transformational coaching, it does speaks a lot. It speaks around the being part, right? I think that's more juicy as our clients can get a sense of how they need to be, or who they need to become more of. That gives the conversation, that it gives the clients more power to step into that space. Yeah, so that's one very good learning lesson for us to do, to be able to listen to the nuances between courageous, and I need courage. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and also very, very attentive too, because the it's just only a short, brief moment. The client says, "I want to be courageous," and then just only one tiny sentence. I need to have courage. So it requires both attentive listening and active listening at the same time. Good. Thank you, Mark. Great. Anyone else would like to continue the dialogue sessions? Ah, P, Philip, Philip saying, it seems that do you have a question for me? Oh, we can't hear you for some reason. Would you like to speak a little bit louder? No, unfortunately, we are not picking up your sound. Good. Maybe you can type on the chat box and then we'll continue on with that. Good. Great. So I'm here of service to you. Anyone else has other questions that you might want me to respond, or you'd like to have a dialogue with me?
Hey Ben, this is Amy.
Hi, Amy.
I really appreciate the use of your powerful metaphors. And instead of asking direct questions,
yeah,
I think that metaphors really brought out the awareness, in the client. So, when do you think that, you need to use more metaphors than direct questions? Can I ask that?
Yeah. I think there's a few characteristics we can watch out for. Number one, the client is relatively fluid in her thinking, right? It's not a very concrete content that we're working with today. So that means the mind is capable of processing pictures. Okay, so that is one. And then you have to match that with the topic itself. So the topic today is more towards insight, discovery, learning. It's not something to resolve. Of course, it sounds like the clients want to resolve something, but from the nature of the topic itself, you felt that it is more powerful or colorful if we can explore more, learn more and understand a little bit more. So henceforth, words is relatively limited here. If you want to allow clients to express more in terms of their inner thought, right? So that's why I think using the metaphoric language gives the clients more rooms to express. And then it's also thirdly, it's a very sensitive and personal questions, and the client is very vulnerable here. So if you use direct words to interact with the client, it will make people feel a little bit more exposed, right? So if we can kind of like transport away the attention, to a metaphor, like instead of talking to the clients as you, we talk about the hermit crab. What do you think the hermit crab need to do? The hermit crab here, the turtles, what I mean? So we're all talking about the object. And I think, that gives our clients that dignity and more protections to deep dive into their own inner thought without feeling being overexposed. So I guess considering the nature of the topic, I felt that metaphor would be the best way forward. Of course, there are times whereby we need to get a little bit more clarity when it's like, for example, when it comes to courage and courageous, and how the clients need to apply, how does that speaks to the clients. I think those are the times whereby the metaphor should stop so that the clients can use a more intellect to solidify the learning. Yeah, so but primarily it is more of a metaphor as a base to allow the client to expand her mind, to talk more deeply about things that is difficult to express. Is that useful for you, Amy?
Yes, very, very much. Thank you very much, Ben. Yeah.
I do not know if the conversation has no metaphor. I'm not sure how it will go. Yeah, I'm not sure. We can just ask the client, how would that be if the conversation is without a metaphor? Shirley, what do you think?
I think I can add to that. The metaphor at the start helped me to bring my floating thoughts to the ground, and the sense that the coach understands me, he hears me, and so it's okay to open up.
Yeah.
I felt safe to share and comfortable. On the other hand, I guess if it was a direct questions like, so tell me more, what about what else? I think it would have kind of intimidated me a lot.
Yeah.
I would have said, I don't know how to tell what I'm feeling. A bit of like misunderstanding, uncomfortable, and it's like you're taken directly out of the shell into the bare sunlight. Feeling. Whereas the metaphor was very smooth, connecting. I think that's how I can.
Yeah, thanks, Shirley. Well, the conversation started off right with a metaphor right at the beginning, and then continue to build it up, and stuff like that. Good, well done. Great, good. And anyone else would like to continue the discussion? Wow, it's all fully complete. Good. So if not, let's end our time here with some of us sharing, what's your takeaway from tonight or for today live coaching demonstration. Would that be okay? That each of us will contribute as to what are you taking away? So let's start with Charles. Charles, would you like to go first? Then after that, we have Sasha, then Christina, and then our friend from Philippines, Dada. Okay, Charles, would you like to go first?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm calling from Vietnam. The one I take away from today is the behavior from the coach. That I noticed that Ben is not okay for the house, but he's really performed the session really well, and that is something I think something I will learn from that, because when we have someone with very minimal of health condition, we can rely on the one that we learn. Yeah, and we can perform still well. That's what I really take away. And the second one is the last question that Ben asked the client for trigger more information is what is there anything else that's not yet been touched and you would like to take a look in, and that is something help the client to look deeper in her situation. Like sometimes we just like end the conversation without asking that, or put the right question for the client to reflect more. Yeah. And we put away the chance for the client to look deeper in the situation. Yeah, so there are two things that I take away from today. Thank you, Ben, a lot for your and Suwei for being a client.
Thank you. Maybe I should put this as an advice. If you're not feeling well, please cancel your coaching engagement. It's a bit weird.
To be honest, last night I didn't sleep.
Oh gosh.
I don't know why, but I couldn't sleep, and this morning when I turned on my phone to look into the calendar, I noticed that I have the session at 7 a.m. with Ben as a coach. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons I cannot sleep, because I'm afraid that I will sleep over.
Thank you. Great. Now let's turn to Sasha. Sasha, would you like to share what are you taking away?
Yes. I really enjoyed today's sessions. From the very beginning, immediately there was metaphor. I think the whole session is full of metaphors, and I feel like I was on the beach, seeing different little creatures like hermit crab, and then the turtle dashing to the ocean. It's so pictorial, you know, immediately can see picture. And normally I'm not a picture person. And so I noticed that when metaphor is used, a picture can emerge. And then with the picture, it's very easy to get inside a person's feeling and into the things that we are not so conscious of. And I can see that the coach and the clients immediately that can connect at a deeper levels. So again, I'm convinced of the power of metaphor, and that's where I like to learn a lot more from Ben and from the coaching sessions. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Sasha. No, actually, it's the metaphor has to be childlike in nature. It cannot be
Oh.
too complex. You know, it's like simple pictures of hermit crabs leaving the shells. So it's like, just imagine that you are painting a storybook or you are creating a storybook for children's. Yeah, and so if you can think in that dimension, then it's so easy to come up with a metaphor.
Okay.
And it builds around a central theme. Oh, a rainbow. You know, oh, the mountains with a rainbow. You know, so it captures the innocence, that childlikeness inside all of us. And henceforth, it's so much easy to activate the creativity. Well, sometimes I hear coaches offering metaphor, very concrete metaphor, like the junction, and you know what I mean. So I guess a little bit more childlike in his nature will certainly makes more difference, makes a world of difference for our client. Yeah. So the best way to learn to have those pictures is go to the bookstore. Yes, go to the children's sessions and allow those images, the cartoons of those pictures, you know, allow that to, yeah, just see them more often. That it will be easier for you to come up with some pictures.
Next time I'll go to the children's section in the
Yep.
bookstore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because who you are is how you coach, and how you coach is who you are. So having that childlikeness inside you, certainly makes the conversations a little bit more personal, right? And after all, most of our clients comes to a coaching conversation partly because of personal challenges and struggles, and that requires them to be very vulnerable to speak a lot about things that is not so easy to know in a normal conversation, and also want to invite them to be vulnerable too. So henceforth, the best way, one of the very effective ways is to have that metaphor language and childlikeness around. And after all, one of the things that I love to do is to take a look at nature and then bring those into the conversations, because nature has a lot to teach us about life lessons. And so the moment you start to allude to the nature, and ask, so what can we learn from this? Or what is the learning here? It's so much easier for our clients to extract out the insight. So that's
very good source, right?
Yes, very good source.
Nature.
The nature, like the trees, the rain, the oceans, the rivers, the soil. So looking back to nature and see what can we learn. What are the lessons that nature can teach us in this particular incidents? And a lot of teachings, comes from all this nice metaphor from nature, like the eagles, the mountains, and stuff like that. And people just enjoy, the learning as compared to very concrete teaching or concrete, principle. Yeah.
Very good takeaways.
Yeah.
Be childlike and then look at the nature, learn from it.
Yeah.
Simple things.
Simple things. As you take a walk in the garden right now, what are you appreciating about the garden, or what can you see here in this garden? Right. Okay. Good.
Excellent.
Thank you, Sasha. Great.
Thank you.
Christina, would you like to share next? What are you taking away?
Thank you, Ben. So for me, I think this, acknowledging the vulnerability of the client,
Yeah.
both in the topic and in the way of being, and then that leading to then this metaphor as the base for the conversation to create that trust and safety, like in first, like acknowledging
Yeah.
that right now in her concerns, and also to give that distance and that less exposure. So then from that point of the trust and safety, then you can use the metaphor to evoke the understanding. But then also this knowing when you need to emerge from the metaphor to be able to get that clarity before returning back into the metaphor and that safe space to kind of expand some more. So that was very interesting for me to see how, like, firstly starting with who is this in front of me and what is the topic, and then taking that approach, but knowing how to kind of weave in and out of the metaphor, and depending on the need for the conversation at that moment.
Wow, great. A lot of dancing, yeah. So hopefully those who can dance will find it, easy here. There's a lot of dancing in and out, and it's not so structured and formulated. And I think that's really one of the things I appreciate about coaching conversation is the dialectic nature, that it feels like you're having a conversation rather than you're answering questions from a coach. Right, so that's the beauty of this nature of work, a dialectic conversation, and that will be an encouragement to all of you to up the game. Yes, processes are important, steps and methods are important, but eventually this is a human job, a people-centric work. And being able to turn a method into a conversation and carry that into a process is going to be a challenging moment for all of us, which we constantly need to find that breakthrough. Good. Great. Dada, would you like to share with us what's your takeaway as our guest?
Yeah, and taking off from what you were saying about a lot of dancing with the client,
Yeah.
my takeaway today is the ability of you as a coach not only accessing information from the intellect, but you were accessing a lot from the intuition, and we're actually taking it from there. So that because a lot of times I was actually using my head in the conversation and a lot of thinking of what's my next question. So it's a lot of really flowing into the conversation and using a lot of what is my intuition telling me to move forward with the conversation. So thank you, Ben.
Well, thank you everyone for joining me here today, and I hope that you will take one or two things to support you in your own practice as a coach. Now remember, there is no right way or wrong way to do coaching. So coaching is both an art and a science. So while we can learn something about it, and eventually it is a form of an art where you as an artist, learn to express that art form, from where you are, how much you know about coaching at this moment. So as we continue to embed both the science and the art, we turn that conversation more to a dialectic conversation. And that's how we are, this is why we are so excited about professional coaching, right? Even even same topic, but different clients, different occasion, it's just different. Just like when you are meeting your old friends, do you get sick and tired? Or maybe after a while you get sick and tired. But again, if good friends, they always come to a point whereby they just connect and talk. And I think that's what we hope that your coaching conversation can be. Great. So finally, a quick update. So today we are starting our Women Inspiring Women Inspiring Positive Change Conference. So the first session is starting at 3 p.m. Singapore time. So you can find the details in our website under webinar, and you can see the whole agenda for the rundown of the events that will be running from the 9th to the 11th of March. Well, this is designed specially for ladies. It's not about coaching, it's about ladies, okay? How y'all can, step out and inspire positive change. So do join us for those events. And you can also find the details of the next upcoming live coaching sessions in the same webpage on the webinar. And all the best and see you. Take care. Bye-bye.